Realtors. This is episode 183 of Talking Real. Nabil, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. I'm really excited about this topic we're going to talk about because I guess I'm in it right now.
We're joined here in the studio by a special guest, and we always love having a guest on the podcast. And today we've got Steve Shoemaker with us with Ideal Homes. Steve, how are you today?
I'm good, Jeff. Nabil, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Nabil is talking about buying a home, and I'm going to convert him by the end of this podcast.
he's gonna give him the hard sell on buying an Ideal home. So
I think we're going down a lot of rabbit holes today.
Yeah. Indeed. So, Steve, we appreciate you coming and giving us some time because we're very thankful for you and Ideal Homes, who is a presenting sponsor for OAR's conference. And for people that don't know, that means you're a big dog sponsor. Like you guys have gone all in to help us out to put on this amazing conference. And so wanted to come in, and we've been talking about having somebody to come in to talk about new home building anyway on our podcast. This is like a perfect opportunity. So thank you guys for your support. And for everybody listening, you can still register for the conference by going to oarconference.com. So come join us, come join Ideal Homes. We're going to have a lot of great content going on there. So we look forward to having people there. And again, thank you so much for your sponsorship.
You are welcome. We're thrilled to do it. So I've been to the conference before, and so I can tell you that it is a lot of great content, and we're excited to be a partner.
Awesome.
Well, and we love Ideal Homes because Ideal Homes loves Realtors. And
that's right.
You can't necessarily say that for all home builders, but you guys do. You guys have a long history of working with Realtors. But as we get started, first of all, for those that may not be as familiar with Ideal Homes, or especially in a lot of the metro areas here, everybody's heard of Ideal Homes, but tell us a little bit about the company and kind of your philosophy.
Yeah, sure. So we're a 30-year-old company. Founded in 1990, December of 89. I don't know who starts a company in 89. We'd have to ask our founder. But
the summer of 89,
69
is that?
Yeah, we could make a song out of that. So we've been in business for 30 years and build about 800 homes a year in just central Oklahoma. So Oklahoma City metro area, Stillwater, have 120 team members. And our founder is still in the day-to-day business of our company, is our founder and CEO. And we build in 15 different communities around Oklahoma City, and we've been trying to pin down the exact number, but somewhere around 20,000 homes over our 30 years. And so a long history. They started with, I think, 5 homes their first year and kind of blossomed into that. So we love being part of the Oklahoma City area. And, over the years, it's been just interesting to watch the city take shape. We say all the time, it's better to be lucky than smart. And we feel so lucky to be in Oklahoma City when you look at its growth and just the support of the community for the industry. It's a great time to be in business. And this is a great city to do business in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've seen, I don't know if people have seen some of the census data coming back. Oklahoma City is one of the metro areas that has actually exhibited some pretty significant growth. We're like the 22nd largest.
Jumped Las Vegas and Milwaukee and Charlotte, a bunch of cities.
Look at us now.
Yeah,
we're big time. Yeah, we have been. People are just starting to realize it.
That's right. That's what it is.
And of course, that benefits those that sell homes. Obviously, we've had kind of an interesting market for the last year and a half now, where we had this crazy stuff that's gone on. But people that are buying homes obviously have options between a brand new home or a pre-existing home. And so obviously I know that
we have a bias,
a little bias, but
built in.
Yeah. Would love to kind of hear your perspective on that and maybe the benefits of a new home, because people may look at it and say, well, it costs more to build a new home, but then on the flip side, nobody else has lived in it. But kind of give us your perspective on why people should have new homes on their list to consider.
Well, I obviously have a built-in bias, but not only do I work for a home builder, but I've built 4 new homes myself and actually build my 5th one right now. And so we move more than somebody in the witness protection program in my family and my wife. My wife grew up as a military brat, and I've made her move as much as she moved, except it's been like 5 houses in the same neighborhood. So I'll just tell you, so I can speak from a home builder perspective, but just a personal perspective. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of homes sold in Oklahoma City are resale homes, right? So between 2 and 80 years old. And so one of the benefits of new, obviously, is everything's new, right? just warranted. It's nice moving into a home and you're the first person that's lived in it. You know, here, I'll give you a visual image, you know, as you're thinking about, you know, buying a resale home. You know, have you ever seen somebody clip a toenail and wonder where it goes? You don't have to worry about that in a new home. Okay. Like everything's new. There's no nastiness in the carpet.
Until you do it yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, I just grossed out every one of your listeners right now. But, and so things were warranted. Everything's new in the home. And we've actually seen, as the market share of new homes this past year with low inventory in the resale market, the market share of new homes has gone up in Oklahoma City. And we're seeing that price gap close a little bit between new and resale homes. And so, you know, a lot of people justify that price gap and say, well, I know it's a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old home, but I can go in and fix all the stuff that I want to right after the fact. And the reality is that very few people actually do.
Well, because once you're in, you're like, well, now I'll have to not be comfortable in my house while I'm fixing things.
I had a friend who bought a home and he said, oh, there's a lot we want to change about it. And it was just torn up for like a year, like their kitchen. And he was so frustrated and aggravated at the end. And so, you know, there's something to be said for new. And then you also don't realize how things date, how quickly they date. You know, I lived in a new home for 3 years one time, built a new home. And when we listed our home for sale and it was competing with new construction in the same neighborhood, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, the trends change and move so quickly. And so a lot of people get into resale situations and they end up having to do so much changing, or they're frustrated with little things in the home over the years. Yeah. So there are benefits, bias aside, of owning a new home for sure.
Yeah.
So talking about those trends, what are some of those trends that you're seeing that new construction people are wanting, which even 3-4 years before, you know, might not have existed or they didn't think about it?
Well, it's interesting how things make a comeback. You know, if you look like brass fixtures, you know, things that you saw when I first got into the business almost 20 years ago that were kind of going out of style at the time, and now they're back just in different contemporary ways. So that contemporary look on the exterior of the homes, you're seeing a lot of trends just with diversity. You know, we've just kind of been known in this market and in Oklahoma for just the brick Dallas style homes. But you see a lot more diversity and a lot more demand. So modern farmhouse, modern mountain, craftsman style. We have a community we build in Valencia in Edmond that's a master plan 600 acres. And so when I started at Ideal Homes, it was a wheat field with roads cut in. And if you drive through that first section versus the new section, just the blossoming diversity in product that people demand is a trend that I think is going to continue.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have a friend who lives in that neighborhood, and I've always loved that. I mean, it's you guys have just about filled up that area now, right? It's getting pretty close to.
We just opened section 22 this week of Valencia, and we have 2 more sections left.
Wow.
So within a couple of years, we're going to be built out, and it's an amazing. At the time when we purchased that land, we doubled in size, in essence, and it's been an amazing community. It was the top selling new home community in Oklahoma for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's been a great, and I've lived. That's where I've lived for the last. We were pregnant with my 14-year-old when we moved into Valencia, and now he's a freshman in high school.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just been a thriving area for sure. Well, so as you're building all these new homes, and you've said that in this market, you've actually seen new homes kind of take over some market share from the resale homes, but there's also so many hurdles that builders have been facing. Obviously, I think one of the first things it seemed like was the rising lumber prices that just shot up like crazy. But then we've also been seeing things like appliances being in, just short supply, not being able to get an oven or a stove or whatever the case is. And I'm sure it's like that with many things, anything that requires a chip in it, that's been an issue for stuff. So how have you guys, and maybe just broadly the home builder market in general, how have you guys been dealing with that? Because that seems like something that when you're having to put those costs in and go to a consumer and be like, well, our costs are up 30%, whatever it is. I mean, just what have you guys kind of seen there, and how have you been navigating that?
Industry-wide, it's been very different. Some builders were really caught off guard by it and were in reactionary mode. I know several builders that are smaller builders, maybe build 5, 10, 15 homes a year. And they came to the realization that they were building these homes for free.
Hmm.
You know, it was a real gut check for them. So everybody's handled it differently. We have a pretty tenured team of purchasing and estimating people. And I've seen a direct correlation between the relationships you have with your suppliers and your trade contractors and how it's been managed. The home builders that have been keeping their thumb on their suppliers and on their trade contractors, hammering over the head on pricing every day for the last 10 years, those chickens are kind of coming home to roost. You know, like we've fostered a lot of great relationships. And so, you know, when we have supply chain issues, we get preferential treatment because we've built a relationship. But you're right, it's everything. So, you know, one day it was brick, shortage of brick, you know, scrambling. You know, it's disconcerting to a home buyer when we're asking them, hey, pick your top 3 favorite bricks. You know, that's a big deal. The brick on your home's a big deal. And so it was brick, it was windows, you know, at a period of time. At a period of time, it was the solar board that we put as, you know, decking on the roof because the resin that holds the material to the outside of it was hard to come by because they use it to make syringes or something crazy. I mean, so it's been an ongoing challenge and you just have to be extremely proactive. And builders have, you mentioned pricing, you know, the same home today costs $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more than, you know, a year ago. And number one question I get asked is, oh, when are they going to go down? And the answer is they're not. It'll level off. The pricing it already actually has started, but in terms of, you know, going back down, it's not.
Yeah, we're not going to see a price reduction of
No.
10, 20, 30%, you know.
It would take something pretty drastic that would not be good for any of us.
Well, and the pricing's been challenging. So you ask how people are doing it in the industry. I'll tell you how we're doing it and how we've seen other people. So there's a few ways people have handled the pricing. One is they've been completely caught off guard and they have a buyer under construction and they actually break the agreement.
I've heard
they get out, you know, which they realize I could give this person their earnest money back, complete this home, sell it for a big profit. I think it's shady. I don't think it's cool. But I know some situations where that's happened with organizations. Another one, a lot of builders are putting escalation clauses in the contract. So it's like we reserve the right to raise this price as we move along. We talked about that and didn't feel comfortable like not being able to tell somebody like this is what your house is going to cost, right? Like it just, and so we approached it by being proactive with our price increases, but then we put a fee up front, a custom fee when somebody was building. So they knew what the price was, what it was going to be, and it just had a buffer in there to help protect the company and the consumer from, you know, the raising prices.
Yeah, it's tough because like you said, these different shortages and cost increase have just kind of popped up over time. And like you guys have done a good job of staying on top of that, working with your suppliers, but then sometimes it's still just when you're talking in timelines of months and like the next week, something changes drastically. That can be a real challenge. Has your timeline for building houses increased or have you guys been able to keep it pretty consistent? I kind of wondered how that's working.
Our building time has actually decreased during it. And so on, you know, from the time we break ground until you move in, earlier this year, what really increased on us was what we call our soft cycle, right? So from the time you write a contract on a home till the time that your home starts. So when we had this boom of sales in the first quarter of the year that we hadn't forecasted for, I mean, we had a pretty bullish forecast, but you know, I think 1 month we were forecasting 65 sales. And we had 110.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Nice.
It's a good problem to have.
Right.
Right. These are good, better than the alternative, you know, but it's a unique problem, but it's still a problem. And so just the bandwidth of our team internally, people getting into our design center, going through the process, you know, there was a backlog of home because we don't want to rush people through the personalization process like cattle, running them through there.
You got 10 minutes to pick it out. Go.
Yes, exactly. Like that's one of the things that's unique about us is that we have a standalone design center, 6,000 square foot on I-35 that we send our custom buyers through. And so we tightened up our processes and try to set expectations, but we didn't want to rush. So that time frame stretched out, But in the course of a couple of months, we went from a backlog of like 100 buyers waiting to, I think there's like 6, and so, but the actual construction time hasn't been an issue. Now at the end, there've been some, when it's close to closing and some kind of material didn't get in,
yeah.
And you have to make a material substitution or try to figure out an alternative. That's been challenging.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting year. We go from COVID last year where it's like, oh my gosh, are we all going to go broke, to, oh my gosh, how do we handle all the business?
Right.
Which was the most unexpected, crazy thing to me.
Yeah.
Everybody thought and maybe it did for a month or two, the market kind of come to a screeching halt just right at first. March, April, but then all of a sudden May comes and it's just off to the races. It seems like.
Yeah.
But I mean, luckily in Oklahoma, we had real estate as an essential business, so that
Right.
helped.
Oh, that was huge.
And then I think as a state also, we didn't really close as much as other countries or the rest of the country did. So
yeah,
that definitely goes a long way.
Yeah. I had a colleague in Vancouver that I was talking to just a month ago, and I had just mentioned to her that I'd been to lunch with a friend, and she literally started crying on the phone because she hadn't been out of her, they can't go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so right, wrong, or indifferent, Oklahoma has been a good place to do business through this. And I feel like has managed it well for our industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were warned, we have an economist that we work with, and she had told us, guys, the demographics in America are on the side of housing. It's undersupplied. The population size of the 28 to 35-year-olds is bigger than the baby boomer generation was at their age. And so it's the perfect storm for a flurry of activity for a while.
So you had mentioned, towards the end of the building process, there might be some items or materials that might not be available or anything like that. Have you seen any innovation or creativity come out of that in terms of new materials or new types of building processes coming out of?
No, it's a good question. Innovation's been around, how the bringing on different suppliers. So, we've had to really diversify the amount of suppliers that we work with. And, we really kind of run everybody through the ropes before they're one of our partners that we work with. But we've really had to add a lot more people to make sure that we cover our bases. And so it's not a interesting innovation, but it is one. But then some of it is just setting expectation with the buyers that, hey, you're going to be moving in with this issue. And as soon as this tile that is back ordered that has a crack in it is here, we're going to fix it. And so we found that we just have to set expectations. Nobody wants to move into a new home and it not be new. Okay. That's why they bought a new home, right?
Yeah.
You want it to walk in and be done on time and clean and everything new. And so in those instances where there was a window that's broken and it's back ordered for 3 weeks, and we got to put something that is ugly and doesn't match over it for 3 weeks, that's a tough pill to swallow. But it's just been scrambling for stuff.
Yeah. Like you said, communication and setting expectations.
Yeah. Are there any other kind of innovations down the line that you see, sort of these, maybe you go to trade shows and things, something you think is really cool that's going to be coming down the pipeline?
Well, I mean, I go to all these things and there's always talk about 3D printing, and you see what they're doing overseas with 3D printing. And I just, people in Oklahoma still have a hard time with vinyl sided homes, what are we going to do when we tell them, hey, we're 3D printing this home? And so I think that's an interesting technology. If we're talking like the out there stuff, I think 3D printing may manifest itself more in like the materials, like the parts and the components of a home rather than the home itself.
Okay.
You've seen some stuff out there that's out there about robotics, can a robot brick a home? You see innovations around things manufactured in a plant and shipped to the site, and it's put together like a puzzle. So there are a lot of those. I can't remember which one of the tech giants that said we, tend to overestimate what can happen in a year and underestimate what can happen in 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I see a lot of that, I'm curious about how long it will take to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, you see all kinds of crazy stuff at the International Builders Show. There's guys selling like fallout shelters and
Yeah, right.
yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Are you seeing more people ask for solar? We recently had somebody that deals in solar come in, and I'm curious if you're seeing that in new homes very much.
Yeah, so we have this long history of energy efficiency. Back in 1998, we were the first builder in America that was part of the EPA program for affordable homes. I mean, it's a little known fact. We built the first LEED certified home in the United States of America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
in Valencia. Yeah,
It used to be his home.
Yeah, no, it was not. You know what? I was laughing with somebody about it because it's been bought and sold probably 5 times, and at some point somebody took the solar panels off of it, and so there's somebody in Valencia living in this historically significant like geek energy home, and they have no idea. They just know, they're like, man, our utilities are really low in this town.
This is great.
So we have dabbled in, we built the first zero energy home in America under $200,000, and as a test home. We had, back in the early 2000s, we partnered with the U.S. Department of Energy and started building some test homes. And what we got from them was funding. What they got from us was learning. It was a great partnership, and kind of through that, we tested a lot of different things. Some of the things are still in our homes today. Some of them we didn't see the benefit. But one of the things we found through all that is, if, at least for first-time home buyers especially, and even maybe second and third-time buyers, there has to be a 5-year payback on the technology. And so that's what we've bumped into with solar. We build in a community, or did. We've now sold out, called Village Verde. We build across the street now in Bison Creek and Piedmont. In Village Verde, all the homes we built were solar ready in that community. We didn't see people adopting it. And I think a lot of it was that payback. So, technology wise, let's see what Elon Musk does with solar powered shingles. And as that cost becomes more, mainstream, and you can get to that 5 to 7 year payback, I think you'll see more adoption of solar.
That's cool. I like that, solar ready.
Yeah.
So that's,
yeah,
I'm gonna look for that in my new house.
There you go.
I know a guy. I can hook you up.
That makes sense, that, people move into a house, and oftentimes they're not thinking of it in terms of, oh, I'm going to live here for 15 years. They're thinking, 3 to 5 years. So maybe if they could see that price of whatever that thing is, if it's solar or whatever, where, well, okay, we kind of get that paid back after 5-7 years, that may be a little more appealing than the 20-25 years that maybe you see now. So
we've just kind of sprinkled reality on it. So part of how we got hooked up with the U.S. Department of Energy was the owner of our company, our founder and our now CEO. He was the president of the Energy and Environmental Builder Association, the national one. So he traveled around, speaking, going to their conferences. And at the time, there were all this cool energy innovation stuff builders were doing, but it was rich hippies. It was people building $500,000, $1 million homes, doing all and bragging about, oh, your home needs to have all this stuff. It's like Tom Brady and Giselle, giving me their diet. It's like, oh, this is how you have to eat like us,
Yeah.
And where Vernon got notoriety, our founder, is he was sprinkling reality on, like, hey, here's what buyers are going to pay for. It's, he actually testified on in front of Congress one time and was like, listen, it's all great to do all this stuff, but if nobody buys it, then it doesn't matter. And so let's start with the basics. Low E vinyl windows, insulation. People talk about, oh, you have to have great insulation. Well, it's also how it's installed. It's treating
installed.
Yeah,
Great.
installing it correctly. So it's treating the home as a system, not just the sum of its parts. And so that really was a message that resonated with, the EPA, with the DOE, as they're pushing energy initiatives nationally, is, okay, here's somebody that is building energy efficient homes, but they're doing it with reality. That's something that people are going to buy on a larger scale.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, but if it costs an arm and a leg, well, like I said, you got to have more money than, like, you don't care if you spend a little extra for it. If it's not necessarily, it's still large scale, it's got to be cost efficient as well.
Yeah.
So if you're advising somebody, this is a tough question to ask, because the question is, what should people be looking for in a home builder? And you're like, well, their name should start with ideal and end with homes. But there's a lot of different options out there, and so people may be shopping around and looking for new homes. And so, what are the kinds of qualities and things that you would say, this is some qualities we would say make up a good home builder for a consumer out there?
So that's a good question. I'm going to tell you what not to look for. And this is being in this industry. I'll have people tell me all the time, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. So maybe you guys can edit this out if I say something I'm not supposed to. But there's this misnomer that you want to go with a builder that only builds a handful of homes a year. You're going to get all this extra attention. And the reality is that's not always the case. A lot of people I know that have built with smaller builders, they don't have the supply chain. They don't have the relationships with the trade contractors. They don't have the pricing, the more sophisticated purchasing power, and it becomes more of a nightmare. And so I'm not saying bigger is always better, but smaller is not always better either. So that's one thing I just, say, and do your homework. Look for a builder that has history. I'm always amazed at the number of people that actually are making such a big investment and really don't do a ton of research. They're just like, oh, I like this area and like the home, it seemed good enough. And so doing the research, a builder of any significance is going to have a history of some kind of reviews online. They're going to have, there's going to be chatter. And so, just do your homework, and I think our realtors in, Oklahoma City and Stillwater, where we do most of our work, they've been even more valuable in the past year, helping set buyers' expectations with building a home. Even though most realtors resell homes, the realtors that have experience with new homes have really done a great job of helping kind of guide buyers on, what to look for as well.
Yeah. So talking about those realtors, what advice would you give to them, whether they're seasoned or if it's a relatively new realtor, maybe treading into the new home deals? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I think number one is, overinvest in your education. As you go into that career in real estate, general real estate, or if you're a seasoned person, our founder, Vernon, teaches a continuing education class called Understanding New Home Construction. And it's really cool because it's about how to evaluate home construction. And then that's part of the class. And then you come back for a second part of it that's actually in a home under construction where they're pointing out things in the home.
That's cool.
And the realtors that have been through that course love it because it's added value for them, when they're either competing for business or whether they're working with a buyer or a seller on, when they can get up in the attic and tell their buyer like, oh, they've got blown in fiberglass insulation. That's good because it gets into all the nooks and crannies, not like the bats that can get, or they use mastic caulk on their ductwork instead of duct tape. And it's created great value for them. And so I think understanding just some basics of home construction is going to help you with evaluating new homes for your clients, or if it's a 50, 60-year-old home and somebody's like, oh, this home has good bones. And they're like, yeah, bull crap. Let me point out some stuff that's not good bones about it,
Yeah.
You know how many times the codes have changed? That's back to the new versus you. You know how many the code changes that have happened in the last 30 years?
Oh,
I mean,
significant.
yeah.
Significant.
So,
yeah. And that plays not just to potentially better efficiency and longer life, but also safety is certainly an issue as well.
Yeah. So overinvest in education in some basics of home construction. And I'm not then come here to plug his CE, but he gets great reviews from that continuing education class because he's kind of fun. Every now and again he'll slip up and cuss in it. And, continuing education classes are generally boring, and his is not.
Yeah. So, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, man, we appreciate your time. We have time flies on these things.
I know.
So, a lot of great information, though. I'm really excited to hear about some of the stuff coming down the pipeline, all the stuff you guys are doing. I'm so glad that Ideal's been able to thrive in this market and still be able to deliver these homes to consumers out there. That's really important. Obviously the inventory is a major issue. And so the fact that you are still able to deliver high quality homes to consumers on a good timeline at a reasonable price. Like it's just a fantastic thing. So, and again, we really appreciate Ideal Homes and your support of our conference. We look forward to seeing you out there. I'm sure you'll come by during the conference.
I will be there.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And so, again, for everybody that hasn't had a chance to register, go on over to oarconference.com and get registered. It's not too late. And we look forward to seeing you there. Steve, before we get out of here, give us Ideal Homes website or something along those lines where people want to see more about the company and the homes you guys are building. Where's the best place for them to go get that?
Absolutely. Idealhomes.com. There's lots of 3D tours and photos and all of our locations. So
I'm going on there right now.
Yeah, click on there. We can hook you up. Yeah. Check out our website. A lot of great content on there.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Nabil, any closing thoughts?
I need to start looking at new homes.
There you go. We're going to get Nabil out there and maybe have him check out some.
I feel like
homes as well.
if I ever built a home, I'd geek out completely on every single aspect of that home. So
absolutely. You love it. It's right up your alley. So